here's the key. Since we're all dysfunctional, the secret to finding a healthy, loving relationship is we have to learn about our dysfunction first, our perfect imperfection. And once we know that, and we know about codependence, we know about love addiction, love avoidance, we will know which dysfunction we play best with. The reason you can't find a great relationship is you don't know which dysfunction you play best with. In my experience, finding a normal, healthy relationship requires that we accept 3 very hard truths. And once we accept those, then we need to take 3 separate steps to achieve it. In this video, I'm going to tell you what those 3 truths are, tell you what the 3 steps are, and then provide you resources so you can accomplish all of that. So let's get started with the 3 hard truths. In my opinion, in my life experience, the first truth we must accept is that every single one of us has been through childhood trauma, and that childhood trauma is affecting our relationship abilities. What people don't recognize is they only think childhood trauma is the severe stuff. Any negative emotional event from childhood, parents being late, yelling at you, whatever it is, creates trauma. If you go to my YouTube playlist and you watch my videos on the worst day cycle and childhood trauma, you will come into reality of, oh my gosh, just being yelled at is trauma, and it is still affecting you in every area of your life. That's truth number 1. Because of that trauma, we have truth number 2. We are all codependent. And that leads to number 3. Therefore, it is normal for all of us to be dysfunctional. We are all perfectly imperfect. There is this tremendous fear and desire that normal means I don't have anything wrong with me. Well, that's one of the things we have to change. Is it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's normal. We all have things wrong with us. We're human. We're all perfectly imperfect. As I like to say, I'm a total train wreck. Isn't it wonderful? All of us are. Our desire to be normal and not have a problem, that's one of the key reasons people can't find relationships. They're not in truth. They're not in reality. Well, if we're not in truth, we're living a fantasy and nobody knows who we really are because we're guarding the truth that we all have trauma, that we're all codependent, that we're all dysfunctional and perfectly imperfect, and therefore it's normal. We need to change the definition of normal. Normal means we have trauma, we're codependent, and we're all perfectly imperfect. All right? So that's your first step, is to accept those truths. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that you're all ready for that step, and so I'm going to move on to the 3 solutions. The first solution is this: go become an expert. It's fascinating to me that the 2 most important things in life, parenting and having a relationship, we don't take a single class to learn about it. I tell this story in my book. I was having the discussions of this girl who cuts April, who used to cut my hair. And she would always, every time I go in, I know, I have very little hair, and I know I should just shave it off, but I'm hanging on. Someone called it once my ghost hair. I thought that was perfect. It's just like hovers over my head. But I still think I have hair. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So she would always tell me about her relationship problems. And I would, ask her, so what are you doing about that? Are you, taking any classes? Or, oh, no, I don't need to do that. And I'm like, April, let me ask you a question. How did you become a hairstylist? And she went on to tell me how she went to class and everything. And she had to take tests and get a certificate and get licensed. She had to get a license from the state. And as she finished all that, I looked her directly in the mirror and I said, isn't it fascinating, April, that our hair, something that no matter how badly you butcher it, will grow back perfectly on its own, our government demands you get a license to get anywhere near my hair, something that's so insignificant. But to learn how to be a parent or how to have a relationship, we don't learn a damn thing. Now, I'm not advocating that government force us to take classes. I'm just trying to bring people into reality. No wonder we're all normal and dysfunctional and perfectly imperfect and can't find healthy relationships. We don't know how. Very few people have educated themselves. Now, if you're here, most people just watch videos. Okay, videos can be helpful, but this, you have to learn this. You have to go to school. You have to read books. You have to take classes. You have to work with a professional. You can't just watch videos and recover and learn and be good at relationships. It's not enough. Just like cutting hair, you have to study and take tests and work with professionals. That's the only way to truly become an expert in something. So I'm going to give you 3 books that I personally believe no person on this planet should ever be allowed to go on a date unless they read these 3 books. And they're all by the same author, Pia Melody. Many people aren't familiar with her. They're familiar with Melody Beattie and other people that talk about codependence, which is fine, but their information is child's play in comparison to Pia Melody. She has developed the most in-depth and complete process on codependence. Most people think codependence is only the weak, spineless, person who gives themselves away and is a people pleaser. Well, that's one side of the dynamic. But there's a second codependent, the falsely empowered. What we all think is normal, healthy, and successful. All the CEOs of the world, male or female. That's called the falsely empowered codependent. The typical one that we're aware of is the disempowered. If you don't know about the difference between the two, no wonder you can't have a healthy relationship. It's impossible because you're picking. These are all the avoidance, all right? And you don't know that. Well, good luck if you don't even know what you're up against. So there are 3 books: Facing Codependence, Facing Love Addiction, and Intimacy Factor. Codependence is going to open your eyes to how codependent you are. You're going to learn about the 2 codependent dynamics: disempowered, falsely empowered. Facing Love Addiction, this book you won't be able to put down. You'll realize we are all either primarily a love addict or a love avoidant. It's a spectrum. Most bounce between both roles depending on who they're with and the childhood trauma and codependence they have. You have your polars, one on each side and one on the other. But after reading those 2 books, like now, I teach clients, they bring me dating profiles. Just looking at a dating profile, I can tell them, oh, this person's an addict, they're an avoidant, they have this trauma. Like, it is all over dating, like, it's so simple. And if you don't have this information, like, I can walk into a room, my friends, they're like, so what about them? And I can literally tell a life story looking at somebody. When you have this information, it's not rocket science. We just aren't taught. It is that simple. A simple question. If I ask somebody what their pet peeve is, I've said this in previous videos. Asking that simple question tells me about your childhood trauma, what you're in denial of, and what you haven't forgiven yourself for. Like, these are basic tools. So that first date question, 5 minutes in, so tell me a pet peeve. Oh, I hate this, this, and this. I know so much about you over such an innocuous question. If you don't know that, you can't find the relationship you're looking for. The 3rd book, Intimacy Factor. This teaches you how to put in place everything you learned in the first 2, how to set boundaries, how to take care of yourself, ask for your needs and wants. It's the action plan. You must read those. I will have links for all of these suggestions. I'm putting links in the description. All right. Now, many people watch these on your phone. The best place to get the links is go on your desktop computer on YouTube. You get the full opening. All right. But whichever way you do it, all the links will be there so you can go directly to find exactly what you're looking for. All right. Now, step number 2 in this process, we must know our morals, values, needs, wants, negotiables, and non-negotiables. The single, I don't know if it's the single, it's one of the problems with people not being able to find healthy relationships is they think they know what those are, and they don't. They don't. I'll ask you right now, what are your needs? Do you know what a need is? Did you know there's a difference between a need and a want? Did you know that needs are survival-based, food, clothing, shelter, water, things like that? Wants are things that bring us joy. We don't need them, but because people haven't done this work and they're codependent and they're reliving their trauma, they don't realize they pursue their wants at the expense of their needs. And that's part of the deprivation and why they can't find a healthy relationship. Also, they don't know the difference between a moral and a value. A value is something we believe in. And then we decide if it's morally good or morally bad. We need to know that distinction. Most people have no clue. I can't tell you how many times when I work with a couple that's in distress and about to divorce, and one of the partners will say, I can't stand my partner does, I can think of one. She was furious that her husband smoked pot. And so I asked her, so how did you guys meet? She goes on to tell me that she met him at a party at a friend's house, walked around the corner and he was smoking a joint. From day one, he's been a pot smoker, but because she didn't know her morals and values, she didn't know her negotiables and non-negotiables and her needs and wants. She just thought he was cute. She got sucked in like everybody else. She's codependent, childhood trauma, all of these things. And this is, if you look at it, you will find in almost every single relationship that has failed, they knew from day one there were things that were on their non-negotiable list, but they never did the work. And so they didn't know what to say no to. They didn't know how to say no. So I cannot stress how important it is for you to do the work of learning what your morals and values, needs and wants, negotiables and non-negotiables are. Now, I've done a 3-part video series walking you through the exact process so you can do it. It's on my YouTube channel. It's under the Codependence playlist. And as soon as you open up the playlist, right at the top, it says Codependence Recovery, how to figure out your morals and values, needs, and what. They're all right there at the top. I pinned them because they're that critical. You must watch those and you must do that work. Again, I will put the links in the description to all 3 videos. It's critical that you do that. Now, you want to take it a step further. I also have an online masterclass dedicated that goes even much deeper. You'll work on the underlying codependence, childhood trauma, and everything. And this will really solidify all of that for you, okay? That's called The Complete Journey to Creating Lasting Love and Connection, because it's a 3-class bundle. So it's The Complete Journey to Creating Lasting Love and Connection, if you want to gain the full process, all right? Step number 3 to creating a healthy and loving relationship is we must learn to like more than we love. I did a video on this, and it's called Don't Look for Love, Look for This Instead. You can find that on my YouTube channel. Again, I'll put the links in the description. And what I described is this. I used this pie chart, and on top was perfect, and on the bottom was imperfect. And when we fall in love, we try and live in the perfect. This is, where they do all the things that we like. But down here, when they're lazy and when, their addiction problems or all these, imperfections, we have absolutely no tolerance. But when our friends show up late, when our friend gets too drunk, when our friend makes a mistake and lies to us or whatever, we have so much grace and forgiveness for our friends. But not the person we like, not the person that's our friend. And why is that? Well, that goes back to childhood trauma, codependence, all of it there. And so we place this because whenever we get in a relationship, it triggers the exact childhood relationships we experience. What people don't know, and this is why I suggested those 3 books, the only reason you're ever attracted to anybody is your brain and body goes, oh my God, I'm going to relive the exact same childhood trauma, confusion, fear, anxiety, craziness of my childhood with this person. That's all the butterfly feeling is and all attraction is. And so if you're not an expert in relationship dynamics, if you're not an expert in how the brain and body work with attraction, if you haven't read these books, if you haven't done this studying and done the work, you miss all of that. And then by not knowing your morals and values, you pick someone who has a habit that is non-negotiable, yet you gave yourself away because of that childhood trauma, because you've been raised by a culture that teaches you about relationships from fantasy, movies, TV, love songs, romance novels. And we learn from parents who never took a class either, and they're perfectly imperfect and had their own dysfunctions. And they had their own dysfunctional relationship with us. And so we just repeat that until we heal it. We have to do the work. And so once we do the work, we learn how to like more than love. Now, don't get me wrong. There's still an intense love feeling. But our grace and forgiveness for their imperfections are, like I said, when we fall in love, it tends to get really tight and small, this area where our partner can only operate in. And if they don't, then everything is in disarray and we hate them and all these different problems. But when we like somebody, that space is much bigger. We allow them much more grace and forgiveness. And so when we gain recovery from codependence and trauma, that's what allows us to live in that expansion and learn to like somebody, which is a loving process, a much more forgiving, kind, and loving process. So again, I'll have links in the description for all of that. There's also, I want to mention one more solution so you can learn how to like more than love. Go to my website, kennyweiss.net, head to the resources tab, and then scroll down and click Best Day Blog. Then you're going to want to just put in the search bar, or you can select the relationship tab, and you're looking for 10 do's and don'ts for a great relationship. That's a blueprint to walk you through how to navigate even more deeply than this video. All right? Now let's get to more, resources here. For those that want to address their childhood trauma, their codependence, and truly learn how to build a healthy, loving relationship, I have a couple of suggestions for you. One, my book, Your Journey to Success. This will bring you into reality about childhood trauma, that you're stuck in it, that you're reliving it against yourself. I show you how the brain and body work and what's called the worst day cycle, and how we will repeat the pain from our past until we heal it. It's critical that you read my book if you want a healthy relationship, because you need the process to understand the worst day cycle and how attraction mechanisms work. Now, once you've done that, the next step is to sign up for my complete emotional mastery method masterclasses. It's only $47 a month. You can cancel anytime. And that walks you through the complete healing process that you need to recover from the worst day cycle, the childhood trauma, and everything else. Again, to recover from the codependence, Pia Melody's 3 books, Facing Codependence, Facing Love Addiction, Intimacy Factor. You need those 3, and when you have the information in those, you'll, like me, you'll look at dating profiles, go on a date, ask one simple question. Like, I literally hear people just having an idle conversation about any topic, and their responses to that, I know what side of the codependent scale they're on, what are they more love addict, love avoidant? Because here's the key: since we're all dysfunctional, the secret to finding a healthy, loving relationship is we have to learn about our dysfunction first, our perfect imperfection. And once we know that, and we know about codependence, we know about love addiction, love avoidance, we will know which dysfunction we play best with. The reason you can't find a great relationship is you don't know which dysfunction you play best with. That's what you're robbing yourself of. That's the benefit of doing all of this work. I know that there are certain types of perfect imperfections or dysfunctions that I don't have the recovery for. I can't play with that type of woman. She'll chew me up and spit me out. I'm not ready to navigate that dysfunction. That doesn't make her bad or me bad. That's a recognition that I'm human. I'm perfectly imperfect and I have limitations. It's okay. It is normal to have limitations. It is normal to have perfect imperfections and dysfunctions. This myth that I somehow don't have any of these problems, you're just not in reality. So I'm in reality about what I can and can't sustain and I accept that I'm human and I'm limited. And therefore, I only look for a woman who fits in a certain box because that's who I can play with and sustain myself, and we can sustain each other. And if you don't know that, if you haven't become an expert and done all of these steps, that's why you can't find a healthy relationship. So there are your 3 truths, your 3 solutions, and many, many resources. Again, all the links for all of those will be in the description for you. I urge you, do the work. Get into truth and reality. Accept those 3 truths. Do the work. If you can't accept them, if you want to argue with me, that means you haven't done enough healing work. Once you do the healing work, you'll get into that place and you'll see it. Okay, so it just means you're early in the journey. There's nothing bad with you. It's normal for people to discount these truths. It's just where you are in the journey, and it's perfectly okay. All right? But if you truly want a healthy, loving relationship, this is what it requires. Finally, as you embark on all of that, as I always say, it just breaks my heart how people get so defensive and worried and scared about learning this stuff. Man, and it's the journey of life. Enjoy that journey. Learning about yourself, exploring different types of people until you find that person that fits in your box, all these different things. Enjoy that journey.